So we have a question about rapport cycles and like how do we get them in an environment that has more social stimuli and those types of things. First off, let me just say, like, if you think this can't work in a certain situation where there might be more stimuli or something that's related to dating, you're wrong. It will in fact work better than you'll find it work in sales and all these other things. Why? Because like sales are in business, it's kind of a man-made structure. Rapport cycles are directly using emotions. Now, don't get me wrong, people buy emotionally and all that sort of stuff. And I get those types of sales theory or get that sort of sales theory. But where people are purely emotional and human is going to be in the social dynamic of sex and relationships and connecting. And so you'll find that you can get deeper. In fact, it would be inappropriate to know the truest, deepest meaning of somebody in a sales conversation. But in a dating conversation, you could very easily get to the truest, deepest meaning of somebody, the true reflection of who they are as a sexual being, who they are as a social being, who they are as a person, how their beliefs of God are related into how they orgasm. Like, these are all things that you could talk about with a woman in a short amount of time. In a sales conversation, not so much. Okay. And so when we remove that template of selling or business or, anything that's really man-made, we can go so far with just a social conversation when we're using techniques of rapport cycles, whether we're talking to guys or girls or whatever. Our motives can go deeper. Okay. So the thing with all social interactions are where we meet people, we have to be a part of that culture. Okay. So if we're at a club, and this is very important, if we're at a club, we have to be somebody that's at a club. If we're trying to like outshine that club or be cooler than that club, we're probably going to fuck up because the culture of that club is going to exist before we showed up there. It's going to exist 2 weeks later. It's going to exist for a year later. And when it goes out of business and becomes another club, it's still going to have the same culture of a club that we can't change. And so this is something that's very important. A lot of people come to pick up and they think, how can I hack this? How can I do it? The best thing that you can do is be a part of that culture. So at a club, I don't drink. I go and I order a water, a soda water, or a Coke or a Diet Coke or whatever the fuck it is, right? And I drink that, right? And I tip the bartender. And if they give it to me for free, I tip them as well. And I talk to them and I smile and I watch TV. And if I dance, I dance. And if there's food there, I might eat. But I don't have to do a lot to fit into that culture. But if I try and beat it or resist it in some way, I will make it much harder for me to fit into the norm of that club. Well, it's interesting because people go to a club and even way back when, 100 years ago or 70 years ago or 50 years ago, people went to a club to socialize with men and women, where men and women could talk to each other, because in a different setting, it may have been less appropriate for that. Well, now men and women can talk to each other more easily, but the whole pretense of a club was people mixing and interacting. Now, there's also other reasons why people go to clubs, which is to socialize amongst friends and be around each other and all that sort of stuff. But we were kind of talking about subpersonalities earlier. I'll get to that in another recording. But there's every single person at a club that may not be going, I'm going to this club to meet somebody and have a good time and get swept off of my feet and so on. But there's absolutely a part of them saying, you know what? If that happened, that would be cool. And there's so many of those when you walk into a club and you're having fun, where you'd be like, no, man, I'd be open to meeting somebody that could change my life. No, I'd be open to meeting somebody that I could date. I'd be open to meeting somebody to, strike an amazing business deal that might change my life. But my whole reason for going to that club is to hang out with my friends. We also have to realize that, okay? So a lot of people's motives for going to that club that night aren't to be swept off their feet by a guy or aren't to meet somebody and hook up, but that can definitely be a motive. And most likely they're not going to be that they're going to get in a deep and penetrating conversation with somebody. Most likely it's to hang out with their friends, have fun, dance, and celebrate some event or whatever it is, right? And so you got to kind of be able to read that and see that, because that's the culture you need to communicate in. Let me just repeat that. You need to be able to communicate in not only the culture of the environment, the club, but in the culture of whatever that group is, okay? And that's where pickup has all these different openers and different things and da-da-da-da. But basically, it's really simple. If you see a bunch of girls partying and having fun, you have to go like, hey, wait a minute. They're partying and having fun. What type of thing would they say yes to open up to? If they're sitting there talking around in an intense conversation, what type of thing would they open up and say yes to? Okay. Then I have to move into this other kind of idea where I'm sure they'd be open to meeting somebody that they'd like, or somebody that they might be attracted to, or somebody that they might hook up with. And what kind of lines would I follow for that? What path would I follow for that? And that's very important. Now, not to overcomplicate things, because these are very simple. If I walk into a cafe, the environment of a cafe is to probably buy a cup of coffee or get a water or sit there and lounge around and talk about poetry and fucking art with whoever that I'm around with, or whatever the environment of that cafe is. But if I see a group of 6 women, I'm going to go, wow, what is the, what are they doing? This will take me literally a second to look at them. Okay, they're looking at to be casual. They're having fun. They're preparing for the night out. They're resting from the bar that they were at before. I'm going to get a blink, very split second reaction towards it. And if I spend more than 1 minute on this, I'm taking too much time. But I need to be able to communicate with that, because I need to be able to get to a point where I can fit into that other role of perhaps a guy that connects with them deeply, hopefully socially, hopefully sexually. Okay. And that is my goal. So first off, I'm not going to deal with all the different types of personalities and shit or whatever, but in a club, if it's loud, if it's high stimuli, or it's a bar where there's a lot of stimuli, or if it's a cafe where there's something else going on, I need to say just enough in order to get isolation. That's it. And here's why. Okay, so when I'm trying to fit into the culture, I need to fit into the culture of the environment, fit into the culture of the group. The culture of the group is basically like just there so I can get approval from the group, so I can isolate. All right. So notice I just went to get approval from the group and isolate. It was not yet getting to the deeper parts of the woman. Why? Because the deeper parts of the woman, whether that's socially, sexually, her ambition, a business deal, whatever, is all dependent upon isolation, just like in sales, although we can go much further than sales. Okay, so I need to keep those things into consideration. Now in pickup, there's like nagging, teasing, banter, stories, all that sort of shit, right, to get there. So there's a couple things. If it's, I don't want to get too much into the group and all that sort of shit, but basically if it's a big group, they're going to divide a lot quicker than a small group. A small group is going to divide a little bit slower, but you should be able to get isolation within 2 minutes of talking to anybody. Okay, 2 minutes. If you're not there, then that means there's some extraneous situation or you're fucking up. Most likely you're fucking up. All right. So you should be able to get isolation very quickly. Like within 30 seconds, you should be isolated. If it takes 2 minutes, most likely you're fucking up or the situation is weird. So I'm going to talk to them just enough so I can get isolation. What would help me in isolation? Perhaps if the person that I originally want to talk to, or my motive is to talk to them, although it can change within the conversation of the group, I want to be next to. I want to have them next to me. I want to have my hips and shoulders most likely facing them, because it will be easier to isolate. Body language alone will help you get isolation, especially with a big group. But always have your hips and shoulders facing who you want to talk to, and then you can turn your head to talk to somebody else. Hips and shoulders, so key. So hips and shoulders, you're the person I want to talk to. I can move around and talk to their friends, right? Or slightly move. But generally, my hips and shoulders are facing them. That will sub-communicate a lot. And naturally, a lot of times you'll isolate with them. Now, let's say you change your mind and you like the person that's to your left or whatever, yada, yada, yada. Then you turn. No big deal. You can switch. You have that choice. You have that option. It happens all the fucking time. But guess what? Then you have your hips and shoulders facing them. This is very simple stuff. Now, what people are going to respond to when you first meet them is a whole lot of this. Hey, yo. Oh, really? Wow. Oh, amazing. A lot of facial expression stuff in high and low tonalities. So in pickup, they have all these lines and shit and nags and teases and whatever. And you could be like, oh, man, oh, hey, nice to meet you. But guess what? You could probably just go in with an introduction, ask them simple small talk things of like, hey, what's your name? Okay, yeah, my name's Steve. Nice to meet you. You shake hands. You meet the other person. Remember, hips and shoulders are kind of facing who you want. Oh, so what are you guys doing tonight? How do you guys know each other? You could ask very simple stuff. You can say, oh, no, man, I'm killing you. If you need a reason, because you want a reason, you don't want to feel insecure, but you really don't. You can say things like, oh, no, my friends are talking about something. I just thought it was more interesting to talk to women rather than, a bunch of guys talking about, what they use for, their athlete's foot and shit like that. So, the conversation, probably not one you want to have. So I want to have whatever you guys are talking about. Very easy. Again, highs and lows, lots of eye contact, facial expressions, matching stuff. Another thing that you can do is when they do start talking, listen to them. Listen to them. Very, very important. When people are talking to you and you're listening to them, so old school pickup stuff said don't do this. You want to have more value and have them listen to you. Here's the beauty. Here's the beauty of where you can go very quickly with seduction and really match or mirror any feeling. But if you're listening to them and you're looking at them and you start to kind of get a little bit maybe somewhat like turned on. You give kind of looks, maybe like I'm doing right now, and they match it. Well, guess what? Guess what I'm going to assume? If they start to match it, or if they start to play with it, or if they get closer, or even if they comment on it in a way where they might be a little bit nervous about it, but not totally offended by it, guess what? Guess what my first assumption is? Oh, wait a minute, this girl is single, or if she is with a guy, she is sexually unsatisfied. And then that changes my route when I'm 30 seconds into the fucking conversation. I'm talking to a group of people and I notice that these girls are responsive to it. Or check this out. Let's say I'm listening to the girl here, my hips and shoulders are facing her, and then this girl starts talking and I start to look at her like, really? Oh, okay, wait, you're saying this, da, 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 da. I'm putting out some sexual subcommunications with facial expressions and so on. And that's exactly how I would do it. It'd be like, okay, wait, and I'd even lean in and rock towards her a little bit and just be, man, I can't talk to you. Whoa, you're too hot. And I notice she responds to it just by leaning in. Fuck that, man. Unless this girl's super hot or I'm majorly intrigued. I've only known her for 30 seconds. This girl's sexually responsive. Boom, hips and shoulders towards her. So it would be that simple. Again, I'm not doing any rapport cycling yet. Why? Because I don't have isolation. Okay, so doesn't matter if I'm bar, nightclub, whatever. Here's what happens. Every single nightclub, and I've done this all over the world, people. Okay. So no, I cannot rapport cycle next to a blaring speaker. I cannot rapport cycle on a dance floor when people are dancing. I cannot rapport cycle when there's 50 friends around, let alone 3 friends around. I cannot rapport cycle when 3 people are talking to me at once. I can rapport cycle when 1 person is talking to me at once. But guess what? In every single club I've been to around the world, there is an area where 1 person can talk to 1 other person very easily. In fact, it happens all the time. It's fucking amazing, right? So if you say this can't happen, you're fucking wrong, okay? Because it happens all the time. With or without great technique, people will isolate and go somewhere. Where I find this to be is at certain corners of the bar. Actually, the best place is always by the bathrooms. There's an adjacent area near the bathrooms of almost every club around the world. I don't know why or how this happens. That's a little bit more quiet. People rest, and there's a lot of traffic. People going in and out. People going in to the dance floor, away from that rest area, or in the bathrooms or out the bathrooms, and they chill there. It's just always a great spot. But there's always places, if it's a long bar on one of the ends of the bar or corners of the bar, where it's a little bit less noisy. And of course, there's other places in the club. What I always tell people, if they're trying to, get like the club thing down, is when you walk into a club, figure out where the quiet places are. It should take you a very short amount of time. Okay. And you just need 1. And then throughout the night, you can perhaps find 4 or 5 more, but you need 1. And also, the other thing that I do is because I like to talk to people and I like to actually get laid. So getting laid is dependent upon isolation and either sexually escalating or emotionally escalating. Now, rapport cycling is only an emotional escalation tool. It's not a sexual escalation tool. That's more physical shit. But in order to do that, I need isolation. Okay. So because I like to get laid, I will go to a club or a bar that's high stimuli when it's not high stimuli. So that means if it's a place that closes at 2 a.m., I'll go there at maybe 9, before 10:30. Okay. And I'll talk to people. That's usually my strategy to get a date and get deeper. So 9 p.m. to about 10:30, that's a rough estimate for a place that closes at 2. It's not going to be totally packed, right? And it'll be loud, but not too loud, and people will be wanting to talk. 10:30 to about 12:30, drunk party, club culture takes over. You are a part of that club. So a lot of times I just sit and chill out, or if it's that one time of the year where I want to dance and get all crazy, that's what I do. But for the most part, club's a club. I don't really do any pickup unless it comes right in front of me then, okay? But then at 12:30, it's super cool. Everybody's drunk, leaving, and that's where it would be like the SNL time. So if I wanted to get laid that night, that's where it would be. And I don't need much rapport cycling for that. I might, depends on the situation, but it'd be more physical stuff. And that's when it's pretty amazing, man. Club totally changes every 15 minutes, 12:30 to 12:45 to 1 to 1:15 to 1:30 to 1:45 to 2, and then all the way out, man. It's just the vibe of it changes and people peel off, and it's just kind of cool to see. And if that's your lifestyle, man, I would be pulling ass, like, do it, because that's what I did. It's super, super easy. So that being said, man, I hate to say it, but we're just now getting to the rapport cycle part. What I want to get to in a rapport cycle is I want to get to a part that this girl really values, and I want to show, and I want to either see if I like it. Okay, so I want to get to a part that she really values of anything. Okay, her emotions, her sex, her purpose, whatever it is I want to talk about. And hopefully it's something that I find important. First I want to see if I like it. Okay. If I do like it very easily, then I'll start stating intent towards it. All right. And then it depends on the situation, but I want enough to get a date. I need enough of an impression to get a date or leave the place with her. So that's the outcome, right? I want enough of that connection to get a date or leave the place with her. So what I will do then is perhaps I'll continue to cycle deeper, 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 and then state intent towards that and set up whatever date and anything beyond that. So in order to get there, again, I'm working within the environment of the club. Okay. So if I'm at a strip club, I'm watching sports, I'm hanging out with strippers. I don't buy dances when I'm there, but I watch sports. I drink water and I tip. All right. And I don't buy dances, but somehow I fit into strip clubs. Why? Because I've chosen part of what that club is selling. The club at a strip club doesn't give a fuck if you buy dances or not. Okay. They give a fuck if you drink because they don't make money off the dances. They make very little. They make money off the alcohol. And I don't even drink. So whatever. Somehow it works out, but I fit within the culture of that. Okay. So I'm there. I'm at the club, fitting in the culture of the club. Then there's the individuals I talk to, I approach, or they approach me. I need to fit into the culture of them. I need to do it enough to be able to get isolation. Isolation is key in order for sexual escalation or emotional escalation. Any decision a human being makes that's going to have any meaning is dependent upon isolation. So that's true in sales too. So check it out. I'm just going to very easily say as soon as possible, like I said, within 2 minutes of talking to him, it's like, hey, I kind of like you. I want to ask you something to see if you're cool or not. Or actually come over here. I can't hear you. Or you know what? I want to ask you something. This is interesting. You give me a certain vibe. Here, come here for a second. That's all I need to do. And they will isolate with you. The whole point of isolation is not to have them far from their friends, but only talking to you. You're talking to them. They're talking to you. Their friends could be right next to them. Their friends could be all around them. Their friends could be surrounding you. But if you're talking to them and there's a bunch of them, they'll peel off and talk amongst each other. And isolation will happen. Why? Because people want others to connect. Unless you're giving her a bad vibe or they can tell that she doesn't like you or they're kind of worried about her, well, they interrupt. But if she does like you and they'll pick up on that, they'll let you guys talk. Okay. That's very, very simple. If you do need to fight for it a little bit, you can. So for instance, if they're a little bit worried about her and she's like, oh man, I really like talking to you, but my friends want to go, then you might have to step in and fight for it a little. Okay. Not a problem. You just simply say well, man, I want to talk to you. So can I go with you guys? Cause I hate getting a number from somebody at 10 p.m. because you have the whole night you're going to forget about it. Let me just walk with you guys. Or let me just talk to you for 5 minutes and I'll walk to wherever you guys are at. Okay. You can fight for it. And you should learn that that's possible because it's very possible. And if you let something go that you wanted because you didn't fight for it, you're a fucking idiot, man. Okay. So once you get into that isolation, it's very simple. You say man, I really wanted to ask you this. And now I'm just going to rapport cycle. I'm going to pick topics that I like. Steve only talks about sex, passions, man-woman relationships, probably family now, and I don't know, something else, career. So those are the only things I'd talk about because they're all things that interest me very much. Okay, so I might say something like, well, let me ask you this because this is a true character of somebody. If you do whatever you want, what would that be? Okay. And so they'll say something, right? They say something. I said, well, look, for me, I've always gotten to do a lot of the things that I wanted. But so now I'm just grounding. Okay. I'm giving my story to define it a little bit more. So I'll just simply say this again, so be it next to the bathrooms and clubs. This happens all the time. And you can even get closer in a club. That's the benefit of it. And so I'd say something like for me, I've gotten to do a lot of things that I've wanted, but you know what it is? It's like even right now with my career, I want to take things in a certain direction. But you never know until you have it. In fact, here's a better question. So now I'm going to get to the ending, or not the ending, the second question in the rapport cycle. So I'll say, here's a better question. What is it that you doubt about yourself that keeps you from getting what you want now? And you know what you doubt. I know because I just know from talking to many people that they're not going to want to tell me what they doubt first. So I'm going to ease them into it, right? If you watch some of the advanced stuff in Formula 69, you can get this, man. It's the 9th video. There's fucking a lot of shit with this. So you could say something like, and what I mean by doubt is like what you think you can't do, I know you can think about right now. I know whatever's important in your life, what you think you can't do. And how does that define what you're going to do next? In fact, I'll make it easy on you. For me, I think like I cannot be the guy that leads like this huge thing. I know it's possible, but I don't even want to be that. And so I then make decisions to be something else. So what is it that you doubt? What is that you doubt that does that? Like, what is that? When have you done that? Like in your relationships, or when have you done that? And I'll walk them through this. Okay. So this is just the initial cycle where I'm doing a lot of double stacks and like whatever it is that I'm listing of threes and accessing memories and all this sort of shit. And I'm walking them through it, and they're going to give me something. You say, well, I don't know. And I'll pick one, because anybody can answer relationships about their purpose, or I'm sorry, anybody can answer questions that are deep, especially this one that I'm asking, what do you doubt about their relationships? They've doubted something. They can get it right like that, man. Right like that. Boom. They can do it about their purpose like that. Everybody knows what their purpose and passion is, but what do they doubt about it? Okay. And that's just what I'm personally going for. But what do they love about it? Answer like that. Relationships, love, just like that. Okay. So very quick, they can access that. And so I might say like, okay, well, what is it for relationships? Like the last guy you dated and you were really in love, where there was like this one thing that you doubted, you thought you couldn't do, and that made you choose and be that other thing. Like, what is that? What is that for you? All right. And so they answer it more. Okay. Remember I said, you got to listen to people. You got to fucking listen to people. This is where you need to listen. And when you listen, if it's not enough, you need to tell them. Okay. So I say, well, like, what was that? Like, what did you doubt and what did you become? And then they say like, well, man, I didn't want it. My boyfriend was kind of an asshole and he was a dick. And then they get caught up in this, he was a dick story. You go, no. Okay. Like, he was an asshole, but what part of you was like, all right, I'm not going to fight for this. And I'm going to let you do whatever you want. Like what made you go like, I'm going to give up on this and I'm not going to see the potential in him that I know is there. And I'm not going to see the outcome that I know is there. Because that's probably why you held on. Why did that stop? Or did he decide to stop? Let's say, you know what? This is like really, really deep, man. I don't know. It didn't work out. I'll say, man, that's the like, I barely know you, stranger. I'm not going to give you the full answer. That's one of those answers, right? But I'll tell you this, because whatever it is deep and you value it a lot. So at this point, I'd probably know that I've gotten them to show enough, especially if they're looking at me. Like if we've been talking for like 3 or 4 minutes on this, because that's all you need, a very short amount of time. And I'd just say like, look, I can already tell, like it's fucking awesome. You have a lot of depth to you, but I'm going to ask you one more thing. Okay. And the only reason why I'm asking one more thing is because we only kind of went down one thread of relationships and it's kind of negative and da. But now it's almost like I'm asking this next question because I saw something deep in them. This is exactly what they'll feel like. So I saw something deep in them that I'm going to ask this other question that means something to me. So I'll say, I just want to know the first thing off the top of your head. What is like your greatest thing that you could just do? Like something that you would tell like your favorite relative, like your grandma or something like that. And as long as I could get them deep to think about that, because they're investing something about themselves. What I want is I want a choice. I want a real thing from them. I want something there that is right. That is their decision. I want that to be voiced to me, and it'll happen very, very quickly. And they say, man, I just want my grandmother to be proud of me, or whatever it is, because it'll be very simple, right? Very, very simple. And it doesn't even need to be that deep, but it should be something like passions or purpose or something that does have meaning to them. Like it can't just be like, what's your favorite color or what's your favorite sport to do? It's too superficial. But it could be, what's your favorite sport to do and why? Or what do you have more of a relationship with your body, your mind, or your lifestyle? And then like they describe it a little bit. This would be at this point enough to state intent. Okay. So if I say like, what is your purpose what did you want your grandmother to think of you or something like that? And they say it, and I say, man, and they probably won't be able to fully articulate it because it's so new. They're at a club. They don't think about this shit, but they feel it all the fucking time, man. And so then I could say like, man, you know what? You're awesome. And when I asked you the first question, it was just cool. It blew me up. But the fact that you have like morals and values attached to it, and there's like a human, like, I want to see you more. Like, I want to talk to this. I want to talk to this. Like, this is awesome. Like, what's your number? What's happening? Or, so that would be like stating intent to get a date. All right. And so that's enough. I saw the real you. Let's date that. Okay. That's what that's communicated. It's not literally saying that. I have a client of mine that says like, well, I told you, this is the fucking great, man, that he says this, but this is a misinterpretation. Don't do this. But he says like, I told the girl I like, responsible Susan, but drunk Susan, I don't like. No, you can't say that. That's not going to work. Okay. So don't do that shit. But what I'm saying is like, I saw a window of you that was just so awesome emotionally and connecting that I want to date that. And that's cool. Now, here's the other thing. Here's where it's more money. Here's where if it's 1 a.m. at the club and you do this and you do get stuck in a rapport cycle, because that does happen, but I would say go physical first. And I'm not going to tell you about the physical now because this is only about rapport cycles. But rapport cycles will happen. So you get to that rapport cycle and she says whatever and you say, man, that is fucking hot. This is where you state intent. She tells you about the grandmother thing or whatever it is. And go, that's fucking attractive, man. Like when I first talked to you, I was like, man, you're attractive. I mean, everybody knows you're hot. You probably get hit on a lot, but that's like something that just like, man, that fucking turns me on. Like that is fucking hot as fuck. Like like beauty with morals and purpose and to see the inside of you. Like when was the last time like a man made love to that? Like when was the last time your last boyfriend, the person who gave you the best sex and the best sense of a woman in your life, like it made you feel like a woman, actually had that with them when they held your hand, when they opened the door for you, when they kissed you, when they made love to you, when they met your parents and they showed up always to that. That doesn't fucking happen, man. That's amazing. Like, come here for a second. And then I probably wouldn't kiss them, but I would just be like, I just want to, like, because I'm going to hold on to that tension. This is another thing. Like somebody was saying, like, actually, same guy. But this is so many guys always say this. And then I kissed them in the club and they didn't fuck me. And it's like, dude, I've never said to kiss a girl in the club. Like you can, and there's plenty of people that get laid doing it. But what I would do more likely in that situation, if I got that deep, I'd go like, let me get close to you. Like I'd get close to them like this mic. This mic is them. Yeah, this mic is them. But actually watch this, because like, let's say if this is their lips, I'm going to get cheek to cheek. I'm going to get this close. I'm just going to say, I want to see what this feels like. And like, that feels right. Like I want to see you more. So I would hold on to the sexual tension and not kiss them. And the reason why is because a sex act in an environment, women are so reputation based about their sexual feelings that it kind of blows yourself out of the whole thing. I would just hold on to that tension, end up in the same car with them. I would try and SNL it more likely than to get a date, but that could work too. Basically, an emotional seduction has more sustenance. It lasts longer. If it spikes up high with physical, which I said go physical first because it's faster and it's more to the point. If you're not leaving with them that night, it goes up faster, but it crashes harder. So an emotional one, like here's how fast. Physical one will be instant. Within seconds, she'll be physically aroused. Okay, makes sense. Emotional, 2-3 minutes, maybe 5. That's not that slow, man. That's pretty fucking good. In 5 minutes, you get a girl who's like fucking pussy wet like that and wanting it, and it will stay. Okay? So it's pretty powerful. Physical rapport cycling shit, emotional rapport cycling stuff lasts a lot longer. In any case, that's how you do it. My end goal is to find out something deep about them that has identities. And it's to find out something deep about them, see if I like it or not, and then see if it connects to their identity or deeper parts that makes decisions. And when you can get there, you can go a lot further than you could in a sale, because it's all open. It's like, I like you spiritually, I like you mentally, I like you sexually, or whatever it is. There's just so much to it. Hopefully that was helpful. And yeah, I do it all the time. It's very, very possible.